All right, so last Simone Weil part two. Um, so last time we talked about where was God, right? And we found out God is, right? We are the ones who are ushering the divine presence in the world. And if we are not available, right, there can be no presence of God in the world, right? And part of the reason why God was so absent during the Holocaust, according to Simone Weil, is that no one really was channeling the divine love and divine compassion. Everyone was kind of thinking of their own, thinking of number one, right? Thinking of themselves. So we saw that last time. We saw how we should be priests and that we have the power to baptize each other. We have the power to um, offer each other the presence of God, right? We have, a lot of interesting priestly, right, powers that normally are reserved for the priest, but she's saying all of us, right, are called to be this. We are called to bring the mass into the streets. Today we're going to talk about this personal connection with God, which, remember, after the Holocaust is jeopardized. We saw that Levinas turns his back on this, right? Opting more for ethics, right? An ethical approach to God. So today, Simone Weil, however, is going to think that no, it is still possible to have this without being a big hypocrite, right? I'm looking for my pen. Here it is, yeah. So the main issue she's going to talk about is what a lot of us have actually experienced or are experiencing, which is the silence of God, right? This is an experience which you've either had at some point or you're having right now, which is you want perhaps to know God and you've tried a little bit, a few things, and still no connection, right? And some of us are there right now, right? Or maybe you didn't even try. There's just simply no connection, right? You're sensing that there's a disconnect. Even if you throw up a little prayer occasionally, no answer, right? No response. No matter what you do, no matter what you desire, some of us are trying really hard, right? Still nothing, right? You feel nothing, you hear nothing. And so this is really this is a universal experience, right? All of us either go through this or are still going through this. And what Simone is going to reveal to us today is that the problem when we are in the silence of God is not that God is not speaking, right? It is simply that we are not hearing, right? So she's saying just like we have to turn the knob in the radio to align to get the right frequency and not the parasites, right? She's saying likewise, we need to learn to align ourselves with the divine frequency and then we'll begin to hear, right? God is speaking all the time, she says, right? He's all the time right there, right? But the reason we don't hear is we are looking in the wrong direction or our ears are pointing in the wrong way, right? So like an antenna, right? We have to learn to point the right way and then we can finally connect to the divine wisdom and presence, which is always all around us. Just like a radio frequency is always all around us, but it takes a good antenna to find it, right? Is the same when it comes to the connection with God, right? So today we're going to learn. This is important information. We're going to learn how to connect. What do we have to do? So first of all, I'm going to give you an example so you can see clearly how not to connect. And also how to connect. And then we'll go into the text with regards to God, right? So this approach to connecting to God, the best example is how to connect to another human being. It's the same approach, right? So let me give you an example. Suppose you have a crush on someone, okay? We saw that already with Levinas. We did some Seduction 101 with Levinas. So, man, I can really barely hear myself talk. There's like a plane every 2 minutes. The joys of living in Queens. So, you can hear it, right? It's insane. Okay, where was I? Yes, okay. So, suppose you have a crush on someone, right? What would be the approach? Making it happen, striving to do it, putting in all your effort, giving it your best shot, or learning to let go, be receptive, and surrender? What is the best approach? Striving or surrendering, letting go? What do you think? Can you get someone by striving? Can you force someone? Okay, Ahmad. Ahmad is voting the ladder. Any other votes? Okay. Yes, absolutely, right? If you have a crush on someone, you can, no matter how much effort you put in, right? There is no degree of effort you can put in to get someone. You can't, right? You can put in effort for, your career, you can put in effort for whatever paper you have to write and so forth, and even then, right? But when it comes to connecting, right, or encountering someone, which is the same as encountering God or connecting to God, no effort of, there, no amount of effort will get you to your goal. There is a certain letting go that is necessary in order to genuinely connect with someone. Remember when we talked about with Levinas, right? The seduction, you make your move, but then you wait to see how the other person will respond, and then depending on how they respond, you make another move, right? You don't make 5 moves in a row, then she's gonna call cops on you. Right? You want to make a move, wait a little, see, test the, see how she responds. Okay, she's responding, now make the next move, and so forth, right? So there is an element, of course there's an element of action, but there's also an element of letting go. This is where Simone Weil is going. She's going to use two concepts to talk about how not to connect to God and how to connect to God. She's going to distinguish will versus attention. Okay, so let me define those and then we'll go in the text, right? Will. Will is effort. Yeah, I'm going to connect to God and we're going to do this and I'm going to go do this and do that and it's going to happen. I'm going to make it happen. No, it's not going to work like that. God ain't gonna, appear on your, like Aladdin, right? Aladdin, yeah, you rub the lamp and boom, poof, right? You have the genie granting you all your wishes. No, this is not how God works. You can't make him come down, right? So will, right, which means effort, right? It's another word for effort. She's saying this is the wrong approach. You can't connect spiritually to God through sheer will. So then she says it's a different approach, which she calls attention. So we're going to talk a little bit about attention and see what does it mean. So first of all, can any one of you try to describe what does it mean to be attentive? What's the difference between being attentive and doing? Anyone give me a definition of attention or attentiveness, being attentive? Yes, Giannakopoulos, go ahead.
I feel like being attentive is when you think a lot more about what you have to do and you pay attention to the smaller details rather than just doing things, without kind of thought. Because you can just do things in your faith that you're told to do, and it won't really lead you anywhere. But if you're being attentive and you think about the things that you're really supposed to be doing, then it'll lead you farther.
Okay, good. Just one little nuance. Is attentiveness thinking about and figuring out in your head, or is it something else? Ahmad, help us out. You're on the right track with what you said in the chat.
In this instance, you're gonna let go and just you're gonna receive whatever is coming to you, and you're gonna be mindful of it.
Okay, very good, right? So it's not, so because some of us, Giannakopoulos, fall into that trap. We think, okay, does God exist? And if he exists, then maybe this, and there's a proof, and I got to prove it. And if it's not, I can't figure out the proof. And you're like racking your brain. This is still effort, right? So even if some of us don't do any physical effort, a lot of us are sitting down at home, grinding away in your head, right? Is there a God? Does he exist? How do I know? I'm not sure. I have doubts. I'm anxious now. Right? This is not attention. This is still effort. So what Ahmad is saying here, attention is you let go. You're open. You're receptive. Your antennas, right, are working. You are waiting for something. This is attentiveness. I'm focusing and I'm hoping that something will show up, right? It's not, so your mind actually is not doing anything except alert, right? It's not thinking, it's not figuring it out, it's not solving it. It's simply an alertness, right? Okay, so let's go to the text and read some of this and then we'll go deeper what it means, right? Because we still don't know too much, still not quite clear. Go to page 126. I'm on the second paragraph, the effort that brings a soul. Put your hand in the screen if you're there. Okay, great. All right, so here she says this, the effort. So there's an effort, right? But it's a kind of effort. The effort that brings a soul to salvation is like the effort of looking or of listening. In other words, in order to connect to God, it's more of a looking or a listening. We'll talk more about this in a second, right? Because some of you are like, listening to what? I don't hear anything, right? So we'll have to see what that means. It is a kind of effort by which a fiancée accepts her lover. It is an act of attention, consent, okay, you're available, you're open, more on this later, right? Whereas what language designates as will is something suggestive of muscular effort. This is you sitting at home trying to figure out whether God exists, right? Trying to make sure he exists before you take any step, right? And you're here churning away, right? All your theories, and this is will, right? This is not attention, right? She continues, right, talking about the will as something which is, let's skip that for now. Okay, so we have to go a little deeper, right? Islam has been churning away. Yes, see, we all fall into this, right? I used to churn away too, a lot, till I read Simone Weil. And I was like, oh, there's another way to do this. Okay. Okay, so let's go a little deeper. What does it mean to be attentive? What does it mean to be consenting? To what, how does it work? So she is going to bring here a very interesting concept, which I forgot to tell you to research before coming to class. But this is a concept taken from Chinese philosophy, from the text, the Tao Te Ching. This is a text in Chinese philosophy written by Lao Tse. And in this text, there's a concept which is called passive activity, or same thing, doing without doing. Okay, so this is a concept in Chinese philosophy, which is kind of odd for us, right? Because it sounds like a contradiction, right? How can an activity be passive? How can you do without doing, right? So it's a very new concept, but she feels that in that text, she's getting the concept she needs to express what she's trying to say, right? What she's trying to explain to a Western audience, they don't have a concept for it. Because Westerners is all about will and power and mastery and figuring things out and working it out in your brain. So Westerners don't have this idea of letting go. So she goes in the Chinese text and she's like, here, this is exactly what I'm trying to say. So let's explore a little bit this concept of passive activity. Does anybody know anything about it? Raise your hand if you've heard about this before. See, I should have told you to do the research. I forgot. Okay, Ahmad. That's it? Just Ahmad? Anybody else? Okay, Ahmad, you'll be our helper. Okay, so what is passive activity? Tell us, what do you know?
I want to use the example of a meditative practice. Whenever you're doing any form of meditative practice, you're paying attention to whatever sensation that's going on internally. You're not actively going out and, it's not like you're working out or some vigorous exercise. It's letting go and paying attention and focusing internally.
Okay, good, right? Meditation is a way to do this, right? It is a type of passive activity because you're sitting, you're there, so there is an activity. You're not lying in bed sleeping, you're not watching TV, eating potato chips, right? There's an intention, there is an effort, but at the same time, when you're meditating, you're receiving, right? You're emptying yourself and you are receiving whatever there is to receive, right? Meditation is a kind of openness, receptivity, making yourself into a vessel, right? And then, of course, through meditation, you can get very often an encounter, right, with something outside of yourself. So she's not here talking about meditation, but this is certainly a good way to do it. And it's connected, I think, to passive activity. So there are two definitions. When you read the Tao Te Ching, which I really invite you to read, right? There are two definitions of passive activity. I'm going to write them here in the chat, and then we will explore how it pertains to this connection to God. So first definition, acting without a goal. Second definition, acting in response to the environment. Okay? So these are two ways that you can act, which are a kind of non-doing. So what does it mean? Let's start with the first one. What does it mean to act without expectation of a certain goal. You're doing what you need to do, but no goal. What does that mean? How is it possible to act without expectations, without a goal? And what is this goal that you need to push away when you're acting without a goal? Or in other words, I can ask also this: how do we often act with a goal in mind? Can we act without a goal? Okay, Cor, what do you think?
Like usually if we're acting for a goal, it could be like I want to pass this class, or I want to lose weight or something like that, right? Because we always like have an aim that we want to reach or something. But if we're acting without a goal, the way I'm interpreting it is like you don't want to reach anywhere, you just want to do something. Like you have no expectation.
Okay,
You
good,
know?
right?
Yeah.
You're doing it for the sake of doing it, whether it fulfills or not, you just want to do it. So, for example, in other words, you're doing, but at the same time, you're letting go of the outcome, right? Let me write this down. You're doing, right? You're doing your best, right? But at the same time, right? You're letting go, oops, sorry, I got interrupted, of the outcome, right? So, example, right? Suppose you have a test, right? Big test, major test, 80% of your grade, God forbid, right? And you're studying, and so will be like, I gotta study, and you're stressed, and you're sweating, and you're anxious, and you're gonna have a nervous breakdown, right? The person who acts without acting, they put in the effort, but they know ultimately the result is not completely in their hands. They know that in life, the result is never in our hands. There's always an element of grace. There's always an element of gift in the results that we have from our work. Our work is never enough. I don't know if you've noticed this already, but I learned this very early, right? I learned this in high school, actually. My work is never enough. And yet, somehow, we succeed, or we make our way through the world, right? We do what we can, and somehow, right, we are granted the success that we don't completely deserve, right? You put a lot of work in this relationship, and still it's not enough, and yet somehow it comes together, right? You put a lot of work in this career, it's not enough, and yet somehow, right, you apply everywhere for jobs, you're not the best candidate, and somehow you find a position, right? This will happen to you, right? You will start to notice that all the time you are never fully deserving of the thing that is granted to you. You've done your best, but somehow there was an element of grace in what you received, right? You put in your best shot, knowing that you're still incomplete, not the best candidate, not the best boyfriend, not the best parent, and yet somehow you put your best and it works out in the end, right? This is acting without acting. You act letting go of the outcome, knowing that it's not in your hands, and in a way, ready to receive what comes your way from your efforts. Right? Everybody understands this first one, acting without acting. Right? This is the Tao Te Ching. Right? This Chinese philosophy has a lot of trust in the universe. You have to understand a little bit the cosmology of the Tao Te Ching. Right? Tao Te Ching believes, just so you know, in general, what's behind this thought, right? That nature is an intelligence which has put us exactly where we need to be, right? Wherever you are right now, according to the Tao Te Ching, is where you need to be. And that somehow nature is leading you through life and putting you always where you need to be, setting up encounters with who you need to meet, putting you through experiences you need to experience. So there's a kind of intelligence, according to the Tao Te Ching, like a natural intelligence, which is kind of like pushing us through life gently to the people and the experiences we need to experience, right? So there is a very deep trust in the universe, in the Tao Te Ching. There's no God, right? Of course, they're not religious, but there is a very deep trust that the universe is intelligent, that there is an intelligence of nature, and that every point of my trajectory is following the course of this intelligence, right? So the key in the Tao Te Ching is to align ourselves with this intelligence, not to work against it, right? So when the Tao Te Ching says act without acting, it's saying do your best and then see where nature leads, right? the letting go is necessary so that you can then be shifted in the right direction. Let me give you an example. Suppose, well, you're beyond applying for college, but you can maybe apply for grad school, right? So here you are applying for grad school, and you want to go to that particular grad school over there. And you're ready, you know, some people do that, to bribe them, right, to go there. And the Tao Te Ching would say, don't force things like this. You're not allowing nature to lead you by forcing your way into the university, by bribing the people, right? You're not allowing, apply everywhere, the Tao Te Ching would say, and then see where the doors open and follow, right? This is how you allow, in spite of your action, in fact, you're acting, but then you're allowing whatever to happen, right? There's this deep trust in the universe. Core, yes, tell us.
I just want to know if like this, if the nature concept is similar to like the law of attraction. Is that like kind of the same path?
Different. Yes, it's a little different because law of attraction, here's the problem with the law of attraction, if I may open this parenthesis. Problem with law of attraction is a kind of magic. I want something, I'm going to think about it hard enough and it's going to come my way. This is magic mentality, that I am in control. I can move matter, right? This is the witch. I know because I used to be a witch at Halloween, and so I understand the mentality very well. I was always a witch every year. I don't know why. But I think I had the sense that of the power of, I can, right, with my power, swerve the universe. This is different because you're not in control, right? You are doing your part so that the universe can work with you. If you're just sitting at home, universe can't move you anywhere. But if you're applying, right, now you're out there, and the universe can begin to set things in motion for you, right? So you don't decide, right, in the Tao Te Ching. Make sense, Core? Right? So there's a difference between the law of attraction and kind of this type of surrender, right? The law of attraction, you're still controlling the situation with your mind. It's the witch mentality, right? Magic mentality. This is different. Spirituality is very different because you are actually surrendering to a higher power, right? And of course, Simone Weil is going to talk in terms of Christianity in a second, but Tao Te Ching already saying there's a higher intelligence than yours, which knows better. And so do your part, put yourself out there so that nature has something to work with, right? If you stay home and do nothing, can't be nothing gonna happen, right? Nature needs some kind of initiative on your part, even if it's the wrong one. This is why, by the way, quick parentheses, when you have a decision to make, and you know how how many of you get paralyzed when you have a decision to make and you can't make a decision? Put your hand in the screen if you're that. Okay, great, a lot of you, wonderful. Okay, this is for you. What the Tao Te Ching is saying is like, decide something, anything, even if it's the wrong thing, but do something, because as long as you're in paralysis, nature can't move you, right? But if you take a step, even if it's the wrong step, then nature begins to kick in and starts to orient you in the right place. So suppose you apply, you know, and you apply badly, right? You miss the deadline, or you have terrible letter, right, of whatever, you know, those letters you have to write. Still, you've done something. At that moment, nature can kick in and begin to do its shenanigans, right, on your behalf. So that's acting without acting implies a deep trust in the universe's intelligence, right? I do my part and then I surrender, knowing that I have now entered the flux of nature and nature will bring me where I need to go. But if you stay on the shore, you can't enter the flux of nature. Nature is going to flow right by you, right? You have to step into the flux. You have to do something, even if it's the wrong thing. Even if you fall on your face in the water, now you're in the flux. Okay, now nature can take you somewhere. So let us not be afraid of making the wrong decision. As soon as you make any decision, nature will begin to take its course and lead you to the right place. There's always you know, opportunities to shift course once you are in movement, right? Okay, where was I? Yes, so that's the first one. Okay, second one, and then we'll apply it to what Simone Weil is trying to do. Second way of acting without acting, I wrote here, is acting in response to the environment. So this time it's a little different. This is nature knocking on our door, opening up an opportunity. and inviting us to go in that direction, right? So at this moment, you're attentive, right? So let's imagine. Suppose you've applied to all your colleges, right? And now you're waiting, right, for nature to take its course. And now nature opens up a possibility. It's not the best one. You wanted that one. It's always like that, isn't it? You want this one. This one opens up. But right, acting in response to your environment opening, right? Financial aid. Everything seems to fall into place here, and now you are acting and you're saying, okay, I'm gonna go to that school, right? Since it's the only opening, I get the best financial aid. It's not my first pick, but I'm gonna trust the intelligence of nature and I'm gonna take action in response to my environment. So this time you're not taking the initiative. You're waiting to see what opens up, right? Or suppose you want to start dating someone, anyone. Some of us are desperate, right? Text would say, right? Here, same thing, right? Do what you can and then wait. See where it goes. Don't force. Don't push. Don't become desperate, right? Just be out there, go to this party, hang out with these friends, be chill, right? See what comes. Now, someone comes your way. Huh, I wanted a tall blonde. This is a short brunette. You're like, I was expecting another type of woman or another type of man, right? I wanted him to make a little more money than that. Now here you are blocking, right? With your expectations. Acting in response would be someone comes your way, they're decent looking, they're not, they're not turning you off, there is some attraction. You don't, right, you don't block it with all of your expectations. You trust that nature has brought in the right person, and you take a step forward even if you're not sure, because nature can steer you once you take a step, right? I see Colon is reacting nicely to this revelation. Thank you, Colon. Would you like to share, Colon?
And I was gonna say it's kind of like me, like I'm gonna use the example that you said. Like I'm tall, I'm 6', 6'3", and as a result, I like my woman tall as well. But then again, I never seem to pull tall woman. It's always the short ones. So then as you're saying that, it's like, damn, story of my life.
Exactly, right? Nature doesn't always bring us what we had in mind.
Obi-Wan, yeah.
And in a way, we have to trust the intelligence of nature, right? And take that direction, right? That nature opens up, and we will in fact be greatly rewarded, right? Because the intelligence of nature is better than our intelligence, right? About that story, it's a funny. Anybody wonder why? I'm just looking at the biblical creation of man. This is a funny moment. God puts the man to sleep before he creates the woman. Anybody ever wonder about that? Why? It's just a side note.
I think probably because we'll probably be way too picky.
Yeah, no, and then you make this woman like your clone, right? Because like you're saying, tall, like someone like you, and you don't end up with someone interesting, right? You end up with your clone. And so God had to put the man to sleep. Let me do this. Here, sleep. Let me handle this. Don't come and help me, right? So there is a higher intelligence, and very often the best opportunities are not the ones we expected or wanted. And yet we have to trust, right, the flow of nature, right? So yes, Core, very good, right? Nature knows what's best for us more than we do. In other words, in the Tao Te Ching, there's this idea that there's a higher intelligence which is guiding me, and I have to allow myself to be guided if I'm going to reach my full potential, right? And Ahmad is saying, if you want to make God laugh, tell him you have a plan. Yes, absolutely. I mean, again, right? It's okay to take a few steps, right? But of course, if you have a master plan for the next 10 years of your life, yes, going to be very funny. Bitterly funny, in fact. By the time you get at the end of the 10 years, you'll be like, oh my God, I haven't done anything I wanted to do. Okay, so that's the idea. Okay, so I invite you to read the Tao Te Ching. It's very beautiful writing, very spiritual, even though it's completely atheistic. There is no God, right? But there is this kind of intelligence of nature. So now Simone Weil is going to transpose this to the encounter with God, right? And of course, it works beautifully for anything, this attitude, right? Works to get a partner, works to get the right college, works to get the right career. If you adopt this attitude, right, according to the Tao Te Ching, you will be led to your best life, right? If you allow yourself to be led. Okay, but now we'll narrow it down to the encounter with God, right? So let's look a little bit. What would it mean when you're trying to connect with God to act without a goal, to act without an outcome in mind, letting go of the outcome? What would it look like on the spiritual journey to do that? Anybody want to try? How do you take steps without a definite outcome when it comes to searching for a connection with God? What does it look like to take a step like that? Silence. I'm gonna let you think of that. I want to hear you on this. Said enough. Your turn. So let me be clear, right? You're doing your part, but you're relinquishing control of the outcome when it comes to the spiritual journey. What does that look like? What outcome? What outcome do we have in mind when we're thinking about God? In other words, okay, I'll have Dai. Go ahead.
I have no idea, but maybe like have a plan, but do not expect it to work or do not expect God to approve it in a way.
Okay, right, absolutely, right. You start to search, right? But you don't have a clear outcome on how God will respond. This is important, right? Because very often we start to search and we expect God to appear like this, right? For example, we pray for someone in our family to be healed. They die. And now we're angry at God, right? Because they did not respond in the way that we expected, right? Or we pray, please give me parking spot. No parking spot for hours. Again, now we're raging against God. He's not appearing in the way we expected. Remember when we did the book of Job, right? God did not appear in the expected way. Very often, this is the biggest block. We reach out to God or we give God a chance. God disappoints us, right? And then we're done with God. I don't know how many of you, right, used to have some kind of connection with God, and then tragedy hit, and God did not do what you expected him to do. And then God was, kind of, you ghosted him. It was over, right? You dropped him. You unfriended him, right? And so this is the biggest block. What the Tao Te Ching and Simone Weil are trying to say is that we reach out, but then we allow God to appear in the way that he chooses, right? And not necessarily fulfill our expectations. Maybe God wants us to go through this dark time because that is the best way we can really be prepared for an encounter. Rumi, right? Rumi said that, right? We need to go through dark times, and sometimes God reveals himself in the dark time, right? Not just as Santa, obeying your orders or your commands, right? So we don't know sometimes where our journey goes, right? In life. And yet what Simone Weil is saying is that to act without an outcome is to keep searching without fixed and rigid expectations of who God should be, allowing God to reveal himself in the way he chooses to and at the time he chooses to, right? So let me write this down, right? Allowing God to reveal himself in his way and in his time. Might not also be in the time span we want. Here we are after 3 weeks, we're like, okay, I prayed every day for 3 weeks, nothing. I'm done. Right? Again, right? To kind of let go of the timeline and let go of your expectations, right? Is necessary to be able to progress in the spiritual journey. If your expectations are too rigid, yeah, God was supposed to help me and he didn't help me. Screw him, right? Too rigid, right? You're not allowing what could have happened during this dark time to happen, right? You're not seeing that there is, even in this dark time, a revelation of God, right? Because you're so fixed on the narrow vision you had of him, right? So to broaden our minds, kind of like Job had to do, right? Job met God in the storm, didn't meet him when he was over there praying for his kids that everything will be all right, right? So many times, right, these dark times we go through where we feel abandoned by God can actually be powerful revelations if we allow it, right? If we're not, sulking in a corner, pissed and resentful, right? So Ahmad has a proverb for us. Yes, very nice. Not a proverb from the Quran, right? It may be, I'll read it for you all, for the people who are in the recording. It may be that you dislike a thing while it is good for you, and it may be that you like a thing while it is bad for you. Allah knows all things and you know not. Yes, excellent, Ahmad. That's the very nice illustration, right, of what we're talking about. Absolutely, right? So that's the first thing. Let go of expectations, allow ourselves to go through the experiences that are placed on our path, and seeking within these experiences the possible hidden treasure or hidden revelation, right? Like Rumi taught us to do, right? So that's the first thing. Now, going to the other one, acting in response to our environment. What does it mean in the spiritual journey to learn to respond instead of push through? Learning to respond. What does that mean when you're on the spiritual journey? How would you do this spiritually? Ahmad, go ahead.
So responding has, it's embedded with a sort of sensitivity within yourselves. When you're pushing, there's no receptivity whatsoever. You're just asserting whatever you want to do. But when you're responding, you have to open your antenna, like you said, and just assess the situation and then act accordingly.
Okay, very good, right? In the spiritual journey, sometimes we have to learn to follow, right? We've set our intention. We want to have a deeper spiritual experience. We want to encounter God. And sometimes we just have to wait for what comes our way and then follow the invitation. So suppose you've set the intention, I would love, right, to have some kind of connection with God. I would love to hear his voice. And then somebody randomly invites you, right, to this event, which you're like, oh, no, I'm not going to go there. Right? Simone Weil is saying, right, allow yourself to go beyond your comfort zone and go wherever things open, right? You find a book on the floor and you're like, okay, let me follow this sign, right? In other words, be attentive to what opens up and the invitations that come on your path, and follow. Learn to follow and go places you wouldn't go on your own, or talk to people you wouldn't talk to who are not like you, right? Visit places that might have been forbidden, or places that you don't feel comfortable in, right? The idea to really be open, follow the signs, be sensitive to the signs or the invitations on your path, right? Very often, and I might even add, right, be sensitive even to the signs and the invitations in your mind, right? Sometimes we have a clear idea of where we should go, right? But it's just our reason is like, no, right? Our reason quickly, we have an intuition, right? Of where we should go and what is the right thing to do. And our reason kicks in and starts to, destroy it. Again, right? Sometimes in your heart, right? Rumi would say that, something that your mind doesn't understand. Again, follow that invitation of your own heart, right? Sometimes it's not even out there in the world. Sometimes it's your heart inviting you, take this path, walk this road, keep going, right? Stay the course. Or sometimes the heart will say, veer off, right? So very often this is an invitation to be sensitive to the voices outside, but also within, right? To act in response, right? So this is the two skills, right, that we have to learn. First of all, acting and then seeing, where, right, not having a rigid outcome in our minds, being open to whatever comes our way, and then being sensitive to what comes our way and responding to it, right? So in general, right, this is an invitation to be, this is what it means to be attentive, right? You want to connect, but then you're open to where, so you make some effort, you put yourself out there, and then you see where you are led and you follow, right? In essence, that's what it is. Let me write it in the chat, right? So you do a few things, right? What you think, what crosses your mind, right, to do. And then you wait, right? see what opens up. And when you see something open up or you have an invitation, you follow, you don't block, right? So that's the idea. And this can apply everywhere. We saw, right? Applies to college applications, applies to finding the love of your life, and it applies here also in the spiritual journey, right? If you want to learn to connect to God, let go of expectations of who God is, right? And learn to follow. Learn to accept the invitations that come your way, right? Invitations and intuitions, right? This is also an invitation, right? When you have an intuition that this is the path that my heart wants to take, this is an invitation, right? So that's the idea. Don't rush, don't block, right? That's the I tell myself this all the time because I do both. Don't rush or force, and don't block, right? This is the two aspects of doing without doing. You don't force it, you kind of do what you can and then see what happens, and then you don't block when something comes your way, right? If you have these two things in mind, you will succeed everywhere. You will succeed in love, you will succeed in your career, and you will succeed in your spiritual journey. Don't force, don't block. Right? Okay, that's passive activity in the Tao Te Ching. So let's go a little bit to a couple more texts that illustrate this, right? Let's go to 127. Oh, I ran out of time. Let's skip to 128. There's one last virtue you have to have, which in order to have some kind of anything, any type of success in love, in work, and in the spirit, in the realm of the spirit, this is the one virtue you will need to have any type of success in addition to the other two. This virtue is patience. Here we are, page 128, second paragraph. Read with me the attitude that, are you there? Put your hand in the screen if you're there. Okay. All right, she says this. The attitude that brings about salvation, we know already, is not like any form of activity. We've been through that. The Greek word which expresses it is upomene, and paciencia is rather, this is the Latin, right? An inadequate translation of it. Now she's, and of course, paciencia is our word for patience, right? Then she says this. This is what we need to learn to do on the spiritual journey, on the love journey, on the work journey, right? It is the waiting or attentive and faithful immobility that lasts indefinitely and cannot be shaken. If you can develop the virtue of staying the course no matter what, you will succeed everywhere. Staying the course means you're in it. Maybe you'll be, nature will sway you, but you're not the one giving up. Right? Nature can close the doors for you, but you won't close them yourself. This is the last attitude. This is the ultimate attitude of surrender. You don't give up. Because when you give up, you're making a choice to come out of the flow. Giving up is you're in the flow, struggling, of course, always, right? The flow is sometimes you're getting big gulps of water, right? It's drowning. Giving up is like stepping out of the flow and you got to start all over again. If you stay the course, right, and are open to where the flow goes, you're not the one giving up. It's nature closing the doors. You will succeed at everything you do. The problem with us is we give up too soon. You're in a relationship, right? You've done the first two. You've learned to, what did I say? You didn't force it, and then you kind of followed, right? You didn't block. You're now in a relationship, and now the relationship is going sour, right? And now you're like, God, this is not what I expected. This relationship is hard. I'm not happy, right? And you're tempted to give up, right? Step out of the flow. What both Simone Weil and the Tao Te Ching are saying are like, stay the course. Let nature lead you to where this relationship's supposed to go. By itself, it will organically go where it's supposed to go. You don't have to put any big boundaries and limits and, make big decisions that will break everybody's hearts, right? Follow through with what you start. By itself, the thing will resolve itself in time, one way or the other, right? You don't have to close the door. So that same thing with a career, right? You did everything. You didn't have, I keep on forgetting what I wrote. I need to learn this too. You didn't rush, right? You didn't block. Now you started, a graduate program, or you started a new job, and now it's starting to get tough, and you're starting to be, overwhelmed, and it's hard, and you wonder why you picked this career, and you want to switch, right? Patience, faithful immobility. You are not shaken. You stay the course. You stay in the flow. It will resolve itself. Instead of dropping out, closing your own doors, right? Again, this is the effort, right? So this is the third, right? Third virtue, this kind of staying the course attitude. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to go through with this. I'm going to drink the cup till the end. I'm not going to drink a little bit and then put it down. Here, you drink this, right? I'm going to drink the whole cup. And then see how nature, right, works it out, right? Where nature leads you through this difficult time, right? So that's the idea. And spiritually is the same. We give up too soon, right? We start going to a nice community and it's going well, and we're like learning new things, and our heart is burning within us again. We're starting to believe in God, and then something happens in the community, someone betrays us, and now we are ready to give up the whole thing, right? And again, she's saying, no, why are you giving up so quickly, right? Stay the course, keep seeking, keep working at it, right? To give up quickly, you miss out on what's on the other side of the crisis, right? Very often we miss the springtime of our lives because we don't want to go through the winter, right? We don't want to go through the crisis. We don't want to go through the death, and we miss the resurrection, right? And so what Simone Weil is saying is that when the going gets tough, hang in there. Stick with it. Don't step out of the flow. See what's on the other side. Aren't you curious? Right? I think our generation lacking in curiosity. We get so scared of being hurt. We miss all the interesting experiences we could have by simply moving through the pain. We are such chickens. I swear, but you know why? Because we have like painkillers. Not everything is, we have painkillers for physical pain. And so we're now used to feeling pain. So when we feel pain, we get horrified, like it's the worst thing. I mean, emotional pain, right? We get horrified, like it's the worst thing ever happened to us. But what we're invited to do here is to go through this and see what's on the other side. We are going to miss it, right? If you give up too soon. You're going to miss the springtime of your life if you give up in the middle of winter, right? That's what she's saying. Even spiritually, the going gets tough. Don't give up. See what's on the other side. Be curious, right? That's the idea. Okay, good. Any questions on Simone Weil? Anything that we did or said? Okay, so you have your test this weekend. Last exercise. You have there's a review session for anybody who wants it. I've opened it up to everyone beyond just the 6 students. You have a choice. It's on Thursday, either 7 p.m. or 9 p.m. Thursday in the Zoom class. This class, right? So if you feel like you need a little help, you want to work with other students, the tutor will be there, right? She knows the material. She's taken the class, right? You can show up. 6 students. Yes, you are technically required to do it, but I've given up on bullying you through this. Do what the hell you want. Argitis, go ahead.
Hi, I was just wondering if you graded our third test, and if it is graded, where can we find it? If it's not in the test, in the grade section, obviously, of course.
Yeah, I graded. What happened to you? I have yours. Oh, did I forget to put your grade in? Is that it?
Is it still in that grade section thing?
Yeah, I put it there. Yeah.
If it's there, then I'll go check it out again, but I
Go
just
check,
haven't
yes.
seen it.
No,
Okay, thank you.
yes, very good.
All right, thank you.
No problem. Okay, so you have a review on Thursday. I have changed the final project to extra credit, so you should be happy about that. No final project, simply because what we did in class is not completely related to that book. But I do want to give opportunity for people to read the book if they want. So look, check it out. The PDF is now on Blackboard. You can look at it if you find it interesting. You can get extra credit for it just by writing the review. Otherwise, you don't have to do it at all. Everything is due May 25. Okay. May 25 in the morning. So basically May 24. I'm grading everything May 25. I'm sending the grades at noon. So you need to get everything in all your late tests, all your late essays, right? You hand me everything in the late papers folder, right? By the morning of May 25, including the extra credit. Okay, I think I covered everything. Everything. Any questions on the rest of the semester? Okay, great. I'll stop the recording.